Hi everyone, Tom Wolf here. Now, I recently released a soundbank for Omnisphere called Binaural Soundscapes, and with that soundbank I created a new technique for turning Omnisphere into a binaural synth. So how did I do that? Well, in this video I'll be showing you exactly how I created binaural soundscapes, and I'll be showing you how you can also add binaural depth to your sounds in Omnisphere. So what is binaural audio? Binaural audio is a type of 3D audio that allows you to position sounds in a 360-degree space around you. Now, there are several different types of 3D audio, and binaural audio is just one of those. You may already be familiar with spatial audio or Dolby Atmos, which is quickly becoming the standard for digital music mixing. Now, spatial audio has the benefit of allowing sounds to be positioned above or below you, as well as in the 360-degree space around you. However, the downside of spatial audio is that it requires mixing in surround sound. Now, this means you need to be incredibly skilled at mixing in surround sound, and it also means that a lot of your plugins won't work with it, as most plugins these days are still only made to work with stereo audio. Binaural audio has the downside that you can't position the audio above or below you like you can with spatial audio. However, it does come with one massive benefit. It's essentially created with psychoacoustic processing on stereo audio. This means it's tricking your brain into perceiving the sounds in different spaces in a 360-degree spectrum, but all it requires is a left and a right channel. That means that anything that can process stereo audio can also process binaural audio. So this means that you can load binaural audio into Omnisphere's sample engine, process it, and anything that comes out will still be binaural. So why did I create binaural soundscapes? Well, if you're already familiar with some of my work, then you'll know that I'm a big fan of creating soundscapes and textures. And one of the things that I'm always trying to do is push the envelope and make those soundscapes even bigger and better than the ones I've created before. Using binaural audio allowed me to create huge immersive textures that take atmospheric ambience to a whole new level. So now that you know a bit more about binaural audio, let's have a look at how you can add 3D ambience to your sounds. So firstly, you're going to need a stereo preset. Now, this is a preset from Binaural Soundscapes called Empty Dispersal, and this is what it sounds like when it's purely stereo with no binaural ambience added. So let's have a look at how to add binaural atmosphere to this stereo preset. Now, I'm going to be doing this in Logic Pro because Logic Pro has a built-in binaural panner. However, if you use any other DAW, then you can do this with third-party software. I highly recommend Sound Particle's Energy Panner, as this is a fairly inexpensive but highly effective binaural panner. So now that we've got our basic stereo sound, I'm going to set up some effects on an auxiliary channel. So firstly, I'm going to come over here and go to my sends and send this to bus 1. I'm then going to change this to pre-fader so that I can turn down the original sound and just hear the effects channel. Let's turn this volume up. And I'll rename this. So we've now got a stereo effects channel. So let's start adding effects to this. So firstly, let's add black hole. And I'm going to use one of my presets from the Atmospheric Drones pack called Washed Away. So as you can hear, that gives us a very long washy reverb. Whatever you add to this channel is entirely up to your tastes, so you can add whatever you want. As well as this reverb, I'm also going to add some Sound Toys effect rack. So let's get some more kind of colourful effects on there. So I'm going to use a preset from my Shimmering Soundscapes pack called At the Peak. So that added some lovely shimmering sound to it. So now we've got this huge reverb atmosphere with this kind of glittering, shimmering effect on it. So now I want to make this binaural. So I'm going to come over here, and from my auxiliary channel, I'm going to set up another send, and I'm going to send this to bus 2. Once again, I'm also going to set it to pre-fader so that I can have independent volume control over my stereo effects and my binaural effects. And let's turn this up to 0. So this binaural effects channel is where you're going to be setting up your binaural panning. So if you're using a third-party binaural panner, add it to this channel. Or if you're using Logic like me, set up the binaural panner. So you can do that by right-clicking on our pan knob here and clicking binaural panner. We've now got this direction panner, which you can see gives us 360 degrees. So if you're not already wearing headphones, put some on now so that you can hear the binaural effect in all its glory. So if I play something now, you can hear it moving about in a 360 degree space. So when I was creating binaural soundscapes, I did a lot of experimentation, and I decided the most effective way to do this was to also leave our stereo effects in the mix. That's because that gives it some kind of grounding in the stereo field, and that definitely created the most effective sound that translated on both speakers and headphones. So let's just blend in our stereo sound. So there's our binaural. Let's just bring back in our stereo. So that's about the right balance for me, but of course you can experiment with your presets and find what works for you. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this space around the back here. So we're not going to be going to the front. That's because I found that if you move the binaural panning to the front, that slightly obscures the stereo sound that we're going to be using to ground this. So it was more effective to keep it in the back. So now I'm going to record a single note of my preset into my DAW. The reason why you only want one note is when you load it into Omnisphere, you only want one note to sound when you're pressing a single key. You also want this note to be relatively long so that you've got a lot to work with. So I'm going to make it 8 bars long. And now let's just quantize that. So now you want to automate your binaural panner. And remember, you only want to use the rear area of the binaural space. So firstly, I want to set this to latch. And now, when I hit play, I can drag this around. So as you can see, you're going to want to move the binaural panner around as much as you possibly can to create as much movement as you can. So now you've got your effects moving around in the binaural space, you're going to want to bounce this sound out. So now we need to tidy the audio up. Now for this, I'm going to use Steinberg's Wavelabs, although you can use your DAW or audio editor of choice. So firstly, I'm going to normalize this. And then I'm going to trim the start and the end. So you don't need to be too careful about this as long as you fade in and then fade out at the end. So I'm just going to shorten that reverb tail a little bit because we don't really need the whole thing. I'm also going to add the root note to the sample attributes so that Omnisphere can read this and know exactly what note it is, although you can do that by adding it to the file name, and you'll find more info about how to do that in the Omnisphere manual. So back over in Omnisphere, you're going to want to come to an empty layer. Now you'll see I've already got a sample loaded in here. That's because this is the preset from Binaural Soundscapes. But you're going to want to open this up, go to user audio, and then load in your file. So because we created random movements in the binaural effects chain, we're now going to use our granular engine to pick out certain parts of the file. So this will essentially grab random grains from across the file, each of which will be panned in a different place in the binaural spectrum. So if I now play this on its own, you can hear that the sound is randomly moving about. So you can set the granular engine to however you want, the only condition being that it needs to be in speed mode so that it will randomly pick grains from different parts of the sample and randomize where in the binaural spectrum the sound is. So you can also shape the sound however you want. So you're going to want to set up an amp shape that mirrors what you've got going on in the rest of your preset. And I've also set up the filter here. So now if I add in the rest of my preset, so by adding this binaural ambience to our stereo preset, we're getting these huge, wide, luscious textures. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it useful and I hope you have a lot of fun adding binaural elements to your sounds. If you'd like to check out my Binaural Soundscapes soundbank, then you'll find a link to the product page in the description. Before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe and ding the bell to be notified about future videos. Until next time, take care.